So let me correct you again, Pierce. He literally said that he was not affiliated with Project 2025. Now his biggest advisors are saying that that was a part of the plan, including Steve Bannon.
They're trolling.
So, okay.
They're trolling.
You
are familiar with the concept of a joke, right?
We'll see.
Yes.
So we'll see. We'll see if they're trolling. We'll see. We'll find out. But
So in this one, we're going to have a little fun laughing at woke gay man Ernest Owens after he fell for another Matt Walsh troll when Matt Walsh posted something to the effect of Project 2025 was real the whole time. And at the same time, we're going to have a look at Nerdrotic, Esther Krakow, and the Critical Drinker debating Ernest Owens on the concept of is woke dying and how is it that Donald Trump got so many votes as he won the popular vote in this 2024 election. Let's have a look.
Let me come back to you, Ernest, because you're obviously in your defending the indefensible mode. Do you accept that one of the reasons, outside of the cost of living crisis stroke inflation, which was clearly a big issue for people, and the chaos of a southern border, up to 10 million people coming in illegally, was just ridiculous, whoever's president. Putting those two big issues aside, the third thing that really hit home with people was the wokeism issue. And I read a column for the New York Post saying, I really do think this is a tipping point. I think it's the moment woke began to die. I think just when you see so many Latinos and Black Americans voting for the guy that they've been told was a racist, so many Jews voting for the new Hitler, et cetera, they're basically doing a big two fingers up to the whole thing and saying, we just don't believe any of this crap anymore. You've out-woked yourselves. And by the way, if you want to keep telling me that biological men should be allowed to beat up women in boxing rings in the Olympics, I'm never going to vote for you again. Ernest, your thoughts?
are you going to actually let me have them?
Yes, if you have anything that could actually respond to that.
Sure. Yeah, actually. So for starters, I would just say that a lot of these issues and the narratives of them and the misinformation about a lot of those issues, people are going to have to just F around and find out, to be honest.
What's the misinformation? What misinformation?
A lot of,
That's what the Democrats did.
A lot of promises, a lot of the promises, sure. Here's the thing. People's lives are going to be impacted regardless.
What misinformation, Ernest?
I'm going to get there. So the tariffs, right? About what he's going to do economically with tariffs. What is he going to do about immigration issues? His policies, the people he's going to put in his cabinet. Look, we can be here and we can
What's
go for
the
blows
misinformation?
and talk about who's better. Can I finish?
What's the misinformation?
Okay, tariffs, the economic plan that he has.
What about
There's some misinformation there. Project 2025, which he denied he was going to do. And now his people have said that was a part of the plan. So which one is it, right?
No, you see, Ernest, the trouble is the disinformation, Ernest, is actually now coming from. It's now coming from your mouth. That's the problem.
He literally said. So let me correct you again, Pierce. He literally said that he was not affiliated with Project 2025. Now his biggest advisors are saying that that was a part of the plan, including Steve Bannon.
They're trolling.
Okay.
They're trolling.
You are familiar with the concept of a joke, right?
We'll see.
Yes.
So we'll see. We'll see if they're trolling. We'll see. We'll find out. But people are going to be impacted whether or not he is or isn't. But for a presidential candidate and his advisors to still be trolling after an important election shows you how immature and unserious they are.
I find it incredible that the party.
To me, it shows the lack of sense of humor that the left continually displays. But let's have a look at what Matt Walsh, who is one of the people that this dude is referring to as one of Trump's advisors, has to say about it.
This year Google search, because there's way too many stories to choose from. Here's from The Advocate. Project 2025 is real and coming, says Trumper Matt Walsh. MAGA says Project 2025 is the agenda, Matt Walsh. Rolling Stone, Republicans celebrate by admitting they can't wait for Project 2025. Newsweek, what do we have? Mother Jones, after win, Trump fans admit Project 2025 is the agenda. The Independent, MAGA allies say they can finally admit Project 2025. Axios, I mean, these are supposed to be serious news organizations, and they saw a joke from Matt Walsh and decided it is the biggest story, it's true, and run with it.
Well, and not only that, but I'm not a Trump official. I'm not going to be in the cabinet. I would love to be in the cabinet. I mean, call me up. I'll take the job, whatever it is. But I'm just like, the fact that you can make an article over some podcaster who's just rambling and joking around is the most absurd thing about it. I mean, it's like...
Well, and it's not just that you're not a Trump official. It's that you are somebody who has now made 2 documentaries where you're trolling people. And in your profile picture on Twitter, you are dressed as the character you troll people as. And somebody saw a tweet from you, which was an obvious troll, and they took the bait and wrote articles about it.
I love it.
Yeah, it is amazing, but also on the left, they've just lost their ability to detect irony or.
They had the ability to detect irony.
Well,
I mean, I assume at some point in the past they did.
What was
I
the
wanna
tweet?
be
I gotta be honest.
They want to be victims.
No.
is what it is.
I don't think they do. I do think there's an element of the media that says, "Hey, I know he didn't mean it. He's joking, but we can run the story because you can't sue for defamation because they'll say, but he really said it."
Yeah.
I genuinely believe there's a natural filtration process happening over the past 10 years for people who lack the mental capacity to understand humor and think beyond one dimension.
Well, that'll happen. Like I will sometimes have people try to fact check my cartoons. It's like, okay.
Right.
Can we see the tweet?
When I tweeted that Kamala Harris was Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini combined, and she was going to send Trumpers to camps and start 800 new wars, and a bunch of articles got written being like, Tim Pool thinks Kamala Harris is going to be like, I was literally satiring you.
Yeah.
But their brains are just made of jello, so.
And they also, but some of it is internet too. Like it's not all on the left. Some of it is on the internet. It's a thing where people, where they, and you know, they just pretend they've never heard of the concept of hyperbole, or, you know, comedic hyperbole is a really common device that people use in their everyday lives. Even something like, oh, I'm starving. You know, it's like, you're not, it's like no one thinks that you're actually claiming that you're starving to death. You're just saying that you're really hungry. And so and this happens to me all the time. I'll say something like, you know, whatever, if you drink, people who drink raw milk should go to jail or something. And then you,
the anime one's funny.
And then you have a 3-day outrage cycle. People on the right too, pretending that they don't understand that you're intentionally exaggerating just to be funny.
Well,
so
one of my favorites was JD Vance was talking in some interview, and he said, "Look, you know, my 2 sons eat like a dozen eggs a day, right? And so when you're a family and you're going to the grocery store, and then some journalist wrote, there is no way that JD Vance's children are eating like 144 eggs per week. That's ridiculous." And then he was just like, "Are you kidding me?"
It's like fact check.
I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Fact check. He did not, in fact, want to eat a horse.
It's like fact check. JD Vance's children do not get taller every time their grandmother sees them. Like, people say things sometimes.
Well, technically, they do get taller each time.
That's true, actually, but probably not notably.
Yeah.
While it is missing context, while it is true that they technically get taller, it would not be possible to notice.
I think the
And this is what Trump meant when he was referring to fake news. Well, amongst a lot of other instances as well. But because a credible news source, a journalist, will write a story, these people on the left will believe it. And it happens on the right too. But when you don't have any discernment, when you aren't a free thinker and a trusted source, you know, the number one source of news or whatever, tells you something, these people just believe it. Whereas if you're a free thinker, you essentially take in all news with a grain of salt. You understand that maybe this person is trying to sell me something. Maybe this person is trying to convince me to believe their ideology so that I can go along with them. Let's dig a little bit deeper and try to get to the root of the issue of what this person is trying to tell me. And if it's really true, and or are they just giving me part of the story? You know, much like they did with Trump when they referred to him and claimed that he said there was very fine people on both sides, referring to neo-Nazis, which took Snopes 7 years to actually watch the next 10, 15 seconds of that video and realize that Donald Trump then went on to condemn the neo-Nazis. But let's get back to this Piers Morgan video because it's only starting to get good.
I find it incredible
Dude,
that the party that decided to call...
Yeah, hang on one sec, critical trigger. Let Esther finish, then I'll bring you back in.
I find it incredible that the party that decided to call tens of millions of Hispanics Latinx didn't see a beatdown on the horizon. What Hispanic person do you know that you can go up and say, "Oh, you're Latinx"? That wouldn't punch you across the face. I mean, it's ludicrous.
Yes, ridiculous.
That's like calling me Africanix.
Why don't you ask the Latinos, do you want to be called Latinx? No, none of them did.
It's weird.
By the way, none of them seemed remotely offended by the comedians joke about Puerto Rico. None of them. Didn't make any difference. Well, no sign that any Puerto Ricans gave a damn. They saw that this guy's a roaster who roasted everybody, including his own mother, in the same speech, and just thought, you know what, he's quite funny. That's what roasters do.
Listen, we'll find out.
Meanwhile, Ernest is throwing his toys out of the stroller for 5 days about it, thinking the whole election just swung because the comedian offended Puerto Rico. It's like, they didn't, buddy. They had a sense of humor.
The fact that advisors are trolling and we are getting comedy back and more Puerto Ricans voted in this election than ever, that Tony Hinchcliffe, by the way, from Kill Tony pointed out, he's an international treasure. Is the world healing? We can laugh at ourselves again.
But the point is, Ernest, Puerto Ricans didn't think it impacted them. They saw it as a joke. And he didn't mean it to be offensive. He was just rinsing everybody.
Which goes to show once again that the left is unable to discern between a joke, and then they hear this joke and they want to go and be this, savior, essentially. They want to go and virtue signal for this other class that they feel is being oppressed or whatever, because you can't make a joke about anybody nowadays besides white people and Christians, right? And it shows how complicit these Democrats are, these woke pundits, to be anti-conservative, anti the other side at all costs, and even if it eventually costs their own party. And we see it. Kamala Harris lost the popular vote. Now they're doubling down, leaving X, going over to Blue Sky, which is basically a safe space for these people to once again live in their echo chambers, which is kind of dangerous. But the fact remains, these people will be back to X very soon, and Blue Sky is not going to make it. So, I mean, let's just look at Mastodon, look at Threads, look at every single time these people went and left X, and then came back.
Let me ask you, Ernest, at some point, you deluded Democrats are going to have to face the music in your mirrors and realize that every single thing you stood for in this election got destroyed by the opposition. They vote, the American people, black, white, Jewish, Muslim, everybody gravitated to the bad guy. Because they're sick of this crap. Let me bring in
if Project 2025 happens, all of you all, if Project 2025 happens.
It's not going to happen.
What if it doesn't? Are you going to apologize?
No.
Let's have a deal. If Project 2025 doesn't happen, will you apologize?
What am I apologizing for? I hope that we have a smart Congress that blocks this nonsense. I hope that there will be checks and balances in place that it does not happen.
All right, let me bring Nerdrotic back in. Let me bring Nerdrotic back in. All right, Nerdrotic, on a wider point about culture, celebrity power, and everything else, what do you think happens going forward now? Because we've been, saying how ridiculous these big stars were, but there's got to be a moment of reckoning for them too, where it almost becomes brand damaging now to get involved in this stuff. You look ridiculous. I mean, George Clooney, the way he behaved all summer looked ridiculous.
Yeah, let's not forget that the adult pretender still has a lot of sway with the political ruling class. It was George Clooney who penned the letter that got the big guy to step down.
Yeah.
And the article you referred to from Variety that I'm doing a video on right now, sorry to plug, but that they are trying to deny the fact that they said, basically adult pretenders and celebrities don't really move the needle, but it doesn't have an adverse effect. And that's what you said earlier is complete bullshit.
Yeah.
The celebrity endorsement is dead. We'll still get it all day long. We'll get it. But what they're going to have to deal with is the overall brand damage to their industry that they've had over the last decade. And this is just the culmination. The election is exactly the same thing. America rejected the political state and rejected Hollywood and everything Hollywood was about.
And the other thing, women didn't buy in to this narrative from the Democrats that on the one hand, critical drinker, we're the party for women's rights. So you got to vote for us because of, say, abortion, okay, and abortion rights. Okay, it's a big issue, but America's pretty split on that. But at the same time, the same party that's all for women's rights, and he's the bad guy who doesn't want women to have any rights. They also were supporting things like transgender athletes being allowed to compete in women's sport, right? And that was just for most women, just like, what? Why would you do that? That's obviously damaging to women's rights. And there was that double standard and hypocrisy that I think drove a lot of women to go and vote for Trump, who just said quite simply, sorry, but if you're born biological male, you will not be competing against women in my administration. Well, good. Sorry, and doesn't want kids being mutilated before they've gone through puberty. Good. This is all stuff that, as a liberal guy, which I am, I'm completely
You're
in
not
favor of. So if I am, so I can tell you are the majority of Americans.
You're not liberal.
Guarantee it. Critical drinking.
I think, yeah, I think at a certain point, common sense takes priority over partisan politics, and I think this election is probably a good example of that, where the average person just sees things that don't make any sense to them anymore and say, "No, I'm not doing this. I'm not voting for this. This is nonsense. I have to go for the other guy, even if I don't like him." And perhaps that's what happened in this case.
Yeah, I agree.
I think.
Hang on, I want to bring in
a lot of very good, valid points made in this video, and the thing that disappoints me the most is when one of the panelists make a very clear and concise point that is pretty much inarguable in my opinion. The guy on the right, Ernest, he rolls his eyes or he makes a little sound, and it just goes to show how deeply entrenched these woke people are in their woke ideologies. It's disappointing, it's sad, it's pathetic, and it's concerning because they're explaining their points and this dude is basically not paying any attention to it. It's going in one ear and out the other. And hopefully, over the next 4 years under Trump, this guy's life gets so good, is so much better than it has been these last 4 years, that maybe this is our only hope to win these people over, that maybe, just maybe, they'll start to change their minds and realize that woke Hollywood, woke ideology, the far left fringe is not the most important thing that the American people care about. And if they don't, they'll just end up on the wrong side of history, just like they accuse all the Trumpers of being, right? But frankly, if they double down and triple down and continue down this path, I think that is actually going to result in not only the next 4 years being under a Republican president, it might lead to the next 8 years being under a Republican president. And so, you know, I'm fine with that. We'll take J.D. Vance or Eric Trump or Donald Trump Jr. or Laura Trump or whoever is next in line, Vivek Ramaswamy, maybe Ron DeSantis, I don't know. And with that, I'll ask you guys that if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and come visit me Wednesdays and Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time when I go live. I'd love to see you there. If not, maybe I'll see you guys in the next video.